Welcome back, everyone. So, as you can hear, I may have fixed some audio problems, but on a different note, we are going to be going over more of the basic spells that you're going to be going through in normal hex casting, as well as two from another mod that hex casting has a setup with. It basically can automatically work with this mod, but more on that later. So first, we're going to go with block manipulation spells. You're going to be using these quite often. So first off, there's break block and place block. These two are very similar to each other because they use almost the same use method, because place block and break block both take in a vector. In this case, it's a position, a location to place a block or break a block. So normally in break a block, you just look at a block and do the normal get the location stuff. And then you break it. Quite simple. Break block, not break block, but place block is the same thing, but it just can't be overlapping a pre-existing block. But now you can make a double spell that contains both of these quite easily by simply doing a little trick that I actually picked up from another YouTuber. I may link that video down below, or just say the name of the video. So, oh, that's not how you want to start it. So basically, first off like this, and you get the height of the player. This will say if you're crouching or standing when you cast the spell. And then what we're going to do is go 1.5 or something. I don't typically actually do this spell a lot. You'll have to excuse me a second. I have to add, there's... I found the number. Remember, numbers can be tricky at times. So you want to go 1.5. And then do Maximus Distillation. Now, remember, the first spell that you write here, like when you go blah, 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 and then put your spell here, that's going to be the spell that casts if this becomes true. Keep that in mind. If this is true, it'll cast this spell first. If it's false, it'll cast the second spell. But anyways, so let's say we want our first spell to be break block. So what you're going to do is just write your normal break block spell. As so. Then you're going to close it off. Pretty simple. Then what you're going to do is repeat the same thing again, but with our place block spell. And save a little room, I'm going to try to place some of the stuff up here. For enough room there. So now I'm going to continue over here. And now I do that. And then I go on again with... Oh, you see, I made a mistake there. I did Archer's Distillation. I was supposed to have Architects. So what I'm going to do is say, nope, that was wrong. And I fix it. So I believe... No, Archers. I need Architects. And then I fuse the two. And then I do Place Block. And then I seal that up. And then this will tell if this is true, or false. If it's true, it keeps the first list and gets rid of the second. If it's false, it keeps the second list and gets rid of the first. And using that, then we can have Hermes Gambit after it to then cast the list that stayed. And then what we're going to do is put this into a new page of our spellbook. And then there we go, we have it. So now, if we don't crouch, it breaks blocks. But now, if we crouch, it places them. It's a useful little trick that you should always keep in mind. But not all spells have to be like that. And now the next one is similar to place block and break block, but instead it's with liquids. Now this one, to my knowledge, will make a liquid. So let's make a little spot right here. And Okay, so now we have that location, and then if my memory serves me correct, this should be create water. A useful little spell that'll create water. Now, if you don't want water and you want to get rid of it, this is a destroy liquid. You give it a vector, and using that, it'll get rid of liquids. And it doesn't just get rid of only one block, it gets rid of like roughly a 5 wide area in like radius, but I don't fully know. And then we go on to these two. They are kind of mage block and mage light in a way if you think about it, because this one will take a vector and then create a block at that location. So let's say I want one where I'm standing. What I can do is just that move away, and then I can make my little mage block. And it breaks quite easily, just one click and it's gone. So it's a very nice instant break block. Now this one is mage light. It's quite a useful little one. It's like if you don't have torches, you can just cast this. And now you have light. And even if it's dark out, this will stay. And it's very useful. Now this one, you may remember Edify Sapling, and it does look similar, but this one basically acts as bone meal. You give it a vector, a place of a plant you want to grow, and it will grow that plant for you. So it's a nice, useful little spell. I currently don't have the stuff to show you that it works, but it does, and it's nice and neat, which in fact I could end up seeing if it works on grass. I've never actually tested on grass, so this actually may fail. But no, it does work. It does work on grass. Yeah, so it just acts as bone meal, which is very nice. Now, Edify Sapling, if you want to see that result, you can go to my first video. It basically will make a edified tree from any sapling that you give it the position of. Then we have Ignite and Extinguish. These two basically allow you to either make fire and then extinguish it. This one kind of works similar to Destroy Water, but just with fires, which is very nice. Now, a cool little thing about this is if I scroll to its page, not only can it take a vector, a place to make the fire, but it could also take an entity. So it's either an entity or a vector. So I could just light myself on fire if I want to, which is kind of cool. I'm on fire. Yeah. But if I want to extinguish it, I may have to... Oh, didn't get a chance to. But if I were to... do something like this, and because I'm going to use this again immediately, I'm going to want, well, I'm going to want to use this. So I have two of the same thing. And then I can just do create fire, and I can extinguish the fire. It's useful. And now to get on to these two spells. These two spells are a interloper with the size change mod, Pikua. I know that's not how you say it, but that's the only way I know to say it. Essentially, these two spells have to do with changing size, which is very cool. This one will take an entity off the top of the stack, so for example, me, and if I cast it on myself, it'll just tell me my size. It'll tell me the size compared to normal of what I am. Now, if I were to use this spell with the number 2, I could... Oh, you want to make sure that you also have the entity there, because I almost forgot that. You can see it uses a entity and a number. I just started doing it out of order. So I have to use a list manipulation pattern called Jester's Gambit. it flips the two positions of the two iotas at the top of the stack, which is useful. And now what you're going to do is cast it. You can see now I'm twice the size. Yeah. So it can be useful, and it can even be cast on items, I believe. So if I just go and if I get this cornflower, and then if I do the number 4 and then the spell, it's now 4 times the size. And you can see that I also can jump twice the height as well, which is useful. Now, as soon as I pick up and drop down again, it won't be its size, the 4 times, but now, since I'm twice the size, it will be twice the size as well. But if you want to go back to normal scale, just put the number 1. Because each of these are basically a percentage. 1 acts as 100% scale, 2 acts as 200, then you have 50%, and yeah, it acts as a percentage. And now, using alter scale again, I'm back down to normal. So it's 2 little spells, but these spells will not show up unless if you have the Pikua mod installed. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to go on to the basic spells, which basically include explosion, fireball, impulse, blink, and make notes. So these two you may use in the nether a lot in place of beds to get netherite. And this one I showed you in the last video. It can basically pull an entity in a direction, which is pretty useful. And this one basically will take an entity and a length and will teleport them that many blocks in that direction. This will take a vector, a position, and then it takes 2 numbers to say the pitch and the instrument, that the note that's going to be played. Now, I should have given more clarification on these two. Basically, fireball is just explosion, but with fire. And basically the two work like you give a position and then a number to clarify how big the explosion is. So let's say I want a explosion over there. And I get its position. And the largest explosion you can have is number 10. So we're going to do that. Now, because I don't want to die, I'm going to move back. I'm pretty sure that if the caster casts explosion, it can't hurt them. But I'm not going to test that. Much rather live. But yeah. That just seemed to be a pretty small explosion. Hold on. It seems smaller than normal. This time I'll do fireball just to show you what that looks like. Don't forget your numbers. And then you can fireball. And yeah, that is fireball. You may want to get rid of them so it doesn't spread. Yeah, fireball is just for pure destruction because it just adds fire to it. So you may want to be careful with it. One time I was on a server with Hex Casting, I accidentally cast fireball on my house. Ooh, it was not fun. Especially since it was level 10. So you always gotta be careful about your fireballs. Now, to go over impulse and blink again. So impulse, you just take an entity in a direction. And this time I'm going to times it by 1.5. and then you just cast. And see, it threw me in that direction. Now, how far that direction is, like how big the numbers are, can incredibly change how strong it is. Because a normal impulse will only send you a little hop like that. If I were to have timesed it by 5 or something, I could have leaped over a small mountain. So be incredibly careful. But not only does its power go up fast, its cost does out as well. So keep that in mind. Now, blink is similar, but instead of just pulling you in that direction, if I put a number 25, and then I cast blink, I teleported that many blocks away, 25 blocks. So it's pretty useful. And this, like I said, you just give it a position, then give it 2 numbers, let's say 1, and for the note, let's go 10. And then with that, we just, and give us a little note, which is useful, or not really useful, but yeah, it could be cool at times. Now, to go on to the nadirs. The nadirs basically are 5 different spells that act as potion effects. And the nadirs usually are negative, like weakness, levitation, withering, poison, and slowness. And depending on which effect it is, it could either require 2 numbers or even just a single number. Usually, the first number is to indicate how long it will last, and the second number is to indicate how strong it is. And it's just normal potion effects. So let's say I want to do levitation. I'm going to write myself to say I want the effect, and then I write 1 for 1 second. And this one should cost 1 amethyst dust per 5 seconds. So I should basically cost 1/5 of a dust. And then just write the pattern. And I levitate for a second. Useful. You could use that to save yourself from a fall. Now, if I want weakness, let's say I want it for 5 seconds. So I'm going to write the number 5, and then let's say I want weakness 3. I'm going to do 3. Then I will write weakness. And I have weakness 3 for 5 seconds. So it's pretty useful for like attacking enemies or something. But remember, most of the nadirs are negative. Now, if we talk in the future, I will talk about the zeniths, which are basically more positive, but they're great spells. So they're usually harder to obtain. But getting back to spells, now to go over something that you probably are going to use a lot. Sentinels. Sentinels, let me make one. So a sentinel basically will take a position, and then you create one. And then using a sentinel, it's a geometric shape that will save a position in space for you, and you can call it back with either this, which will give you the position of the sentinel, or this, which will then tell you the direction, or basically, the direction from a given point. So let's say if I want to say right at my feet, and I use this, it'll say which direction to point to go to the sentinel. Now make sure you have enough space for it. And there we go. It now tells me which direction I would have to point to get the sentinel. Now this one will just straight up give me the position of the sentinel itself. And there we go. Now I have the position of the sentinel. If I want to get rid of a sentinel, I can cast this. This will also apply to the greater sentinel, which is a great spell. it basically, the sentinel will have a certain range of how far you can get its info from. It has a certain range to it. The greater sentinel doesn't, but it's also a great spell. So I'll cover that more later. Now, these are flight spells. Basically, this one is called Anchor's Flight, and this one is called Wayfarer's Flight. Basically, Anchor's Flight is a nice little nifty one. If I can find it. Yeah. So, Anchor's Flight will take an entity and a number. The number will act as a radius, I believe, to say how far you can go before you can't fly anymore. Basically, will act as creative mode flight. So if I put myself, and let's say I want 25 blocks to cover me. Actually, let's say like 15. And then I do Anchor's Flight. Now, I can have creative mode flight. Now, if I get too far, it turns red and says, hey, yeah, you're about to leave the zone. If I leave the zone, it fails and it stops. Now, Wayfarer's Flight is similar, but instead of having a limited range, you have a limited time. So if I put myself and then put 25 for 25 seconds, then I can set up flight for 25 seconds. And just like Anchor's Flight, it should turn red when I'm about to lose it. Yeah, it's a pretty useful spell. But this spell basically will detect if they're either using Anchor's Flight or Wayfarer's Flight. Yes, it's about to end. But let's say I just want to do Anchor's Flight again. Let's say only 5. And and now I'm going to cast it. Now I have the normal distance. Now what I'm going to do is cast this on myself. This will detect if I'm either using Anchor's Flight or Wayfarer's Flight. So now, if I cast it, it'll give me a true. Now, if I leave the zone, then try to cast it again, it'll come out false. Now this spell only works with these two. If they're using any other method to fly, it will not work. So keep that in mind. You can only attack these two. Now to get on to item-based spells. Now these ones you should remember, they're basically to craft a cipher, a trinket, and an artifact. This is an artifact. So if I wanted to create artifact, I would have to use this spell. If I want to use a cipher, it would have to be with this. So basically these are for the different levels of spellcasting items. Now this is to recharge. Let's say I want to recharge this artifact level. I have to first get the position, or not position, but have to get media into my stack by, oh, that's the wrong hit. I have to do something like this and get it into my stack as an entity. This isn't going to charge up it a lot, but essentially what it should be like is something like this. It took it up, and now I have 1 out of 5 dust in here. Now this would erase an item. So let's say I put a simple little thing onto the scroll, like blah, 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 something like that. Now it's inside the scroll. Now if I want to clear the scroll, I hold it in my offhand, and then I erase it. Now it holds nothing. Useful. And it can also work on artifacts and spellbooks, or even a focus. Now these two basically are for like customizing how things look to you. So for example, if I were to draw Caster's Glamour, it would change how the artifact looks. See, it changes how the artifact looks. And it will switch in between multiple different sprites. until you get one you like. Now, this one is called initialize pigment. So this will basically change the color of the little particles that you have when you do an action C. So let's say I want a actual little. So see, it makes particles. Those are the particles it'll change. So if I go into creative mode and then grab a certain particle, this is from a add-on, but it'll work just the same. If I hold it in my offhand and then cast initialize pigment, it will change my pigment color to the pigment in my offhand. So it can be useful. Now, these all may seem super simple and stuff, but remember, it's not only limited to, like, for example, with the break block spell, it's not limited to only one block at a time. If I set up a complex spell, like this one is super difficult. If I cast it, it breaks a 3x3 area. Useful, yeah. So I can break cubic areas very easily. Or even another spell I wrote. This one creates, oh, I did that wrong. This one creates a little platform below me. Yeah. So remember, these spells don't limit you to using them with only one position. You can do almost anything with them. It just depends on your creativity and how well you understand the system to actually make it. Now, that's all I have to say for today. I believe I will make great spells tomorrow. So, see you then.